everyone, and welcome back into our roundtable series. I'm the editor-in-chief of the FDU student newspaper on the Metro campus, The Equinox. My name is Elizabeth Scalzo, and I am very excited today to have the opportunity once again to talk to our university president, Mr. Chris Capuano. Good morning, President Capuano. How are you doing?
Morning. Good. Doing well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing very well. We also have Vice President of Media and Communications for the university on here with us as well, Angelo Carfagna, and Managing Editor Amaya Morales. So starting off, we had this huge situation occur over the past few days with a petition on change.org about the possible sale of Wroxton. I know the university put out an official statement, but I kind of wanted to know like what that situation looked like for you as the president of our university.
So I issued a statement on this yesterday, which I think you saw. I saw an article that you did, the Equinox did. So you've obviously read that. There is no plan to close or sell Wroxton. So I want to be very clear about that. And we did suspend study abroad this fall for, I think, good reason. And the provost, Dr. Small, announced that we will be suspending study abroad to Wroxton again in the spring. And the reason being that, we don't anticipate, things in the UK are very bad right now in terms of the infection rate and even more restrictions being placed on residents there. And we just don't think that that's a responsible thing to do, to be sending students into the fire like that, especially given that, as you said earlier, that there's still a lot of uncertainty about COVID and what the future might look like. So study abroad requires a lot of planning. You can't just wake up one morning and say, yeah, we're going to go next week. It doesn't work that way. So I think it was the right thing to do. It was a prudent thing to do to suspend study abroad to Wroxton in the spring, because health and safety is above all most important. But that in no way suggests, I don't know where this idea that we were closing Wroxton or selling Wroxton came from. I was surprised to see it myself. And I think we moved quickly to refute the fact that people think that that's happening. It's not happening. However, as I said in my statement, we are at the end of our current strategic plan, which is our 2015-2020 strategic plan. And we're in the process now of considering what we might do going forward strategically. And we're looking at everything. We're looking at all operations at the university. And I think most institutions are doing this, whether they wanted to or not, because COVID has forced us to do this, right? We know when COVID is over, it's not going to be normal, probably like it used to be. It'll be a new normal. And we're all trying to anticipate what that new normal will be like. We know at FDU we have to become more efficient in terms of how we operate the university. This is not new. This was part of our last strategic plan. You know about all the changes we've made already with reducing the number of colleges and creating more professional schools and having a stronger focus on majors that are more vocational and career oriented in nature, which is what everyone wants. So there will be a continuation of this, and we will look at everything, all operations, including Wroxton. I mean, we need to do better at Wroxton than we're doing, frankly, because it doesn't operate as efficiently as it should. So we're going to be considering some new models. I'm going to be personally invested in trying to make some of this happen. Why? Because like many others, I like Wroxton. I've been there many times myself. It is a treasure as far as FDU is concerned, and we want to retain it. But yet we want it to operate better than it has historically, at least recently. So we're going to be looking at new models. But again, I think just to put this to bed right now, we're not closing Wroxton. It's suspended. Its operations are suspended right now because of COVID, the pandemic, and we're not selling Wroxton. Okay? So enough said. You heard it from the horse's mouth. There's no proposal goes to the board without me sharing the proposal with the board. So the board receives proposals that the president and the senior administration approve. And we will be discussing things with the president, including with the board, including Wroxton. But there's no proposal to close or sell Wroxton going to the board.
Thank you for that update. I know that had like a lot of students very concerned and alumni as well. So I'm very happy that we can kind of also help relay that information. So during the first one of these roundtables, we talked about kind of what your day looked like this summer. I was wondering how that's changed since campus has partially reopened, and if you've been returning to campus in your office more than you did this summer, and what campus does actually look like, since myself have not been there and I know Maya hasn't as well.
So my days are still crazy like they were when we spoke last. And in some ways, it's even more challenging now than it was, because when we spoke last, everybody was essentially working remotely. And I would start my days at like 5:30 in the morning, even with meetings as early as 7 a.m., and go in many instances to always till 6:30, 7 at night, sometimes even till 10 at night, depending on who I was meeting with and what was going on. And it was difficult, but it was easy in that everybody was basically doing Zoom meetings. So now I'm actually getting out more. I am on campus fairly regularly, but a lot of folks that I interact with are not. So I often will get a call, you want to have a Zoom meeting at 8, and I say, well, no, I'm driving, to campus. So it's actually more difficult now because I'm out doing things and people assume that, I'm just sitting at home like they are, waiting for the next meeting. And it's creating, problems in that we're not able to get the meeting scheduled as quickly as we were back 2-3 months ago. So the campuses look great. They haven't looked better. I was at Florham all day on Monday, and I'm not at Metro yet, but I'm going to Metro today. So my goal is going forward to increase the amount of time that I spend on each campus, relative to what it's been since March. I will spend at least a day a week on each campus and possibly more as we go forward, certainly as we get into October. Working in my office, it's very quiet. I do go and walk around campus just to see what's going on. We have the 2 major field projects at Florham that are now both underway. Actually, one's nearly complete. So I'm monitoring that, as well as the start of the renovation of the baseball field and, what we're doing on several other projects. And just walking around, and I see students periodically, but people seem to be behaving well, so I'm happy about that. And I think that if we can manage the situation on both campuses as we are so far well this fall, I think it's going to give everybody, including yourselves, more confidence about returning in the spring, if we're in a better position than we are now. So that's the unknown. What's it going to be like? I think we're going to know more about the spring in another month or so. As we get closer to the end of October, November, we'll get a better sense of what things are, going to look like. Will they be worse than they are now? Will they be the same? Will they be better? Which may give us some optimism. My hope is that we can do more in the spring than we're doing now. I don't know that it's going to be, hey, everybody come back, it's okay in the spring. I think that's probably not likely given what's happening in the country. But I'm hopeful that we can do more on campus in the spring, that our athletic teams will be competing. They're not this fall, but again, that's going to depend on what the NCAA says, what our conferences say. So it's not just our decision. We're, part of, a bigger decision or decisions that will take place. So that's where we're at now. And, so I feel good about the fact that I'm out and going back to campus. By the way, I was still going to campuses even during the time when people were working remotely. I would sneak onto campus and go into my office because I needed things. I didn't sneak onto campus. I would drive onto campus, but I was really the only one going in, just to monitor things. But now it's become more of a regular practice now. So thank you for asking.
And Amaya has a few questions just kind of regarding the update on the COVID cases, which the numbers were sent out this morning regarding new cases that are both on campus and off campus for students and faculty.
Okay,
Sure.
so the first question is, how often will the community be updated on the number of COVID cases? Will this always be via email?
So Angelo, you can come off mute and correct me if I'm wrong, but right now we do a weekly update, correct, Angelo?
That's correct. The weekly update will go out regularly.
Yeah. Now, if something really bad were to happen, we would communicate that right away. Because again, our focus is on the health and safety of everyone that's on campus, first and foremost. It's on everyone generally, but we can't control very much what's going on off campus. We can control what's going on campus. So we'll do weekly updates, continue to do that, and if something serious happens, people will know about it right away. For example, if we were selling Wroxton, you would have known about it right away. I would have told you. So if you don't hear from me, then don't believe it. Basically is what it comes down to. So I'm happy that the cases to this point, I knew we would have cases. Everybody has some cases. So I'm happy that we've had relatively few cases. And again, why do you have cases? Because some people did some things they shouldn't have done, all right? That's human behavior. That's going to happen. So I knew that would happen even with 300, 350 students on each campus. If we had 1,500 students on each campus, we'd have more of it. You see what's going on around the country at colleges. They've all become hotspots. So I would encourage you to continue to communicate to your fellow students, your peers. You guys need to do the right thing, because if you do the right thing, that's going to give everybody a lot of confidence in returning in the spring with even greater numbers, including the faculty. They'll be more comfortable coming back if they see that the students are behaving responsibly and there's not a lot of infection on campus. What that means, it's relatively safe. It's okay to come back. If we have a major outbreak, you know what that's going to cause. It'll create a lot of anxiety and people will be less willing to come back. And more of this remote will continue. So I think this fall is sort of like an experiment for us for the spring. We have to manage it well. The students have a major role, so we're counting on the students, especially those that are on campus or coming on campus, to do the right thing. We want to be an example for other schools. I want to be able to say at the end of the fall, we had a handful of cases. We determined those cases to be positive very quickly. We're doing a lot of testing now, as you probably know. I was involved personally in acquiring the tests that we're using on campus. We have 2 point-of-care tests. One's an antigen test and another one is a PCR test. Both of those tests have allowed us to get results within minutes, 15 to 25 minutes. In fact, these positive cases on campus, we used our technology to determine that the students were positive. We did the contact tracing. We've actually modified now the protocol. So now, beginning immediately, actually the start of this week, we're going to test roommates right away with those tests. And we're also going to test all close contacts right away. If we suspect you might be positive, you have to quarantine. If we know you're positive, you have to isolate. Quarantine means you quarantine, you stay in place. You can't come out as often as you would have, right? We'll bring you your food for 14 days. Isolation means you have to move to a separate location where you're now isolated from everybody else. Until that 14-day period goes by, we test you twice. If you're negative, twice, with a period of days in between, you can come back to your normal housing arrangement. So if we can manage this well, and I'm confident we can, I don't think we've had any cases, right, Angelo, at Metro on campus?
We have. No, not among resident students, off campus.
Yeah, listen, you're going to have off campus, and that's why we need to know when that happens, especially if the students are coming back to campus. The cases we have had at Florham on campus have been related to off-campus activity, where the students went off campus. They didn't wear masks. They went into an environment. Yeah, of course they didn't know what they were walking into, but that's what happens, right? And but we found out right away, and we've mitigated it, including the students off campus now are also quarantining. I think most of them live in the same apartment or the same house. So listen, these things are going to happen. You just have to minimize the extent to which they happen. So we're going to continue to inform the public, as Angelo said, every week. And if something big happens, you'll know about it. So no news is good news. If you don't hear anything, then you don't have to worry. If something happens, we're going to let you know.
Okay, so the second question for now is, how is FDU monitoring the campuses to ensure social distancing is actually taking place?
So I'm doing it when I'm on campus. So far, I haven't caught anybody, so that's good. Everybody seems to be staying away from others when they're walking. I don't go into the dormitories, but I have gone into a few buildings. The buildings are pretty empty, obviously. We don't have a lot of in-person classes going on. I did visit one, and it was a small number of students in class, and they all had masks on, and they were all at least 6 feet apart. So for the most part, my sense is people are, following the rules. There have been a few violations. Didn't result in infection, but nonetheless, they were, not good things. And those situations are in the process of being adjudicated right now. And as we said, there will be consequences if you break the rules. Well, because our goal is to keep people safe. So the rules are there for a reason. You have to follow the rules. If you break the rules, there will be consequences, including being asked to leave if the offense is serious, a serious one. So we've had a few. The RAs are monitoring to the extent that they can, and they're being very vigilant. They're monitoring in the dormitories what folks are doing. So we've had a couple of occurrences where people have had more than one other person other than their roommate in their room. That's a no-no, and they got caught. We also had an occurrence where an RA was involved in one of these things, which is not such a great thing. And the RA got caught, and there were consequences. So listen, people can learn from mistakes other people have made, and people that are in the residence halls know about these things, I'm sure, and they know what the consequences were. So I think initially when people come back, they sort of test the waters to see how serious they are about the rules. And now I think more students realize, hey, they're serious, and we're not, saying, okay, you get another chance, you get another chance. We have a one-strike rule in place, and unless you made an honest mistake, if you did something knowingly, that's a problem. So public safety too is monitoring, things as carefully. The good news is we don't have a lot of students on campus. There's only about 300 or so. And we're asking students to help monitor each other. So if you see, of something that's wrong, and we've had a couple of occurrences where students have called in and said, hey, there's too many students in this room. And that resulted in public safety coming over and saying, you got to break this up. You can't do this. So I think now we're 3 weeks into the back to campus almost now. People are settling in and making the adjustments in their lifestyles as necessary. People are going out, walking around, getting fresh air. They can get in their cars and go to the store. That's fine to do that. As long as they're distancing and wearing masks, it's okay. And the truth is the mistakes that have occurred where we've had infection is because people didn't have masks on and they got too close to people. And that's what you're hearing around the country. If everybody would just wear masks when they're around other people and try to stay 6 feet apart, the 6 feet apart, even outdoors, is less important than having the mask on, especially if you're just walking by somebody, right? If I have a mask on and you have a mask on and I get within 6 feet and we're just walking by one another, it's really not a big deal. But if you're going to stay in somebody's presence for 15, 20 minutes, especially indoors, but even outdoors, and you don't have a mask on, that's foolish. That's why we're seeing all these outbreaks everywhere around the country. It's not because we don't know what to do. It's because people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So.
Yeah, I agree. So lastly, the final question for right now from me is, many resources for students have been invested for both on and off campus. We were wondering, which application do you think has been the most beneficial for the university?
Well, all the resources we put into classrooms thinking we were coming back in the fall have not been utilized fully yet. So I'm hopeful they will be in the spring, so we know we're ready. This spring will be hopefully what we thought the fall was going to be, but we'll see. So many of those resources we haven't not utilized. So the resources that I think have paid off to this point, clearly all the training that the faculty underwent over the summertime in terms of making the online experiencing more fulfilling, more enriching for students, and also eliminating, all the logistical blips that may have occurred in the spring in terms of how to use Zoom and being able to use it effectively and what the expectations are. So from what I'm hearing, and you told me earlier this morning when we started that much of that is going much better. So it seems that the investments we've made in technology are paying off. I'm also hearing that, the platforms that we've created for students to interact outside of classes in terms of virtual study halls and these kinds of things, that the students are utilizing those resources. And, it seems that we're doing a pretty good job with even holding events, even fundraisers. It's not the same thing, but we're doing a lot of things virtually. So we made a lot of investments in technology that have allowed us to do that. So to this point, we're still mostly remote. It's the investments we've made, in doing things virtually that we've utilized and that I think have helped us a lot. The good news is our enrollment actually is quite good. I'm much better than we projected even in July, despite the fact that we're fully remote. Where we're actually hurting is not having students on campus in dorms, and so it's really room and board and international. We don't have as many international students. Some are studying online, but not as many are as domestic. And we know that when COVID, is behind us, that will return because we can see the interest in the deposits. A lot of students just can't get study permits right now. And in Vancouver especially, it's very difficult for students to get there. So it's really the investments we've made in all the technologies that allow us to do things better virtually that have benefited us to this point.
So looking ahead, I know you had mentioned that the spring, is still very unpredictable, and that hopefully within the next month or so, there can kind of be like an idea of what the situation is going to look like. But as of right now, are the task forces from the summer still meeting? Is that still going on? Is that how the decision-making process is still working for the university?
Yeah, so there are some of the task forces, not the task forces. We now have implementation teams. So there's health and safety meets regularly to talk about infection rates and changing the protocols, and academic affairs. The provost and the deans now are managing most of what's happening. So yes, the committees, they're not the same committees. They're now implementation committees. The task forces were just to come up with ideas, and then now there are more committees that are meeting, looking at various things. So all of that continues, as was the case earlier. As far as the spring, I think there's a desire to make a decision about the spring among some, sooner rather than later, and I understand that, but I want to delay a little bit longer because, as I said earlier, I think we're going to know more as a country and even as a state as we get to the end of October. Remember now, our fall term will go until the end of November. Everybody will be gone by Thanksgiving, November 24th. We'll have a fully online winter session, which is longer than it normally is, so people can take, students can take courses in the winter, and then we'll resume at the end of January. So I know people want to know now, but I think it's in our best interest to wait until the end of October. Early November, we'll get a better sense of, we'll be, more into the fall. We'll see what the impact of pushing more things indoors. As it gets colder, more things are going to have to go on indoors. So my concern is that, we're not in a good position as a country right now because, yeah, we plateaued in terms of number of new infections, but that number is still really high, and that's a scary thing. I think once everything, we move out of the warm weather and everything has to be done more indoors, the concern I have is that a lot of people haven't learned that they need to do the right thing, namely distancing and masks. And what is that going to mean when everything goes indoors? Will the infection rate now go way high again? And how will the flu season impact this? So we can't wait until January to make a decision about the spring. I think we'll have to make a decision long before then. Some schools already have decided they're going to stay remote, but we're different than some of the larger schools. We don't have 40, 50,000 students. I think we can manage our campuses better than those bigger universities can. And if we do well through the end of October, that'll give me more confidence that maybe we can do even more in the spring with more students coming back. So I'm hoping at this point that we'll be able to do more in-person classes and activities in the spring. But I say that realizing that if things get really, really bad, not at FDU, but in New Jersey, in our region, and in the country, we might not have any say in it. We might not have a choice. So there's still that uncertainty. So that's where we're at. But if things continue to go well, I think you can expect a decision about the spring and in late October, early November. I also want to see the results of this election too, because that could have an impact on a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely. We have been trying to cover the election, the equinox, and this year is different for that, especially because we have the pandemic and also the passing of Justice Ginsburg over the weekend.
Yeah. So I don't want to make the decision too soon, because if things get better, I don't want to have, decided already that we're not doing something, because I'm an optimistic person. I want things to get better, especially at FDU. I want to demonstrate we can manage the situation. That's why this fall is so important, that we can do it well, because that will give everybody a lot of confidence if we want to do more in the spring. Students and faculty, they'll be more likely to want to come back if they saw that the fall went well. So this is where we're at. Let's hope everything, and please stress to the students, we're counting on you to do the right thing. You have more control over, and that, largely the students that are on campus. Everybody's focused on what they're doing right now. And if they can do the right thing, then we'll be in a better position.
So you kind of mentioned that we're looking at a longer winter break timeline, and then still starting the spring semester on like the regular timeline that we have. So that was something I knew that a lot of students had been personally DMing the Equinox Instagram asking if we had any information. So thank you for answering that question within your last answer. The last question that we have is with the international students who are like having trouble getting their learning visas and things, is there resources being offered by the university to try and help them get back into the US as soon as it is considered safe?
Yes, I mean, we're in constant contact with those students, and we're doing everything we can. We're trying to maintain, their studies. Some are actually studying online now. We're providing, in some cases, additional tutoring in English, language skills, so they can overcome some of the difficulties that they're now experiencing in a virtual environment. But as far as the visas are concerned, there's only so much we can do. And we're not alone in this. Every college and university in this country, we're forced to abide by what the current regulations are, including even domestic students that have been in one of these now 35 states. They have to quarantine for 14 days. New York just yesterday increased it by 5 states. So the infection rate's now increasing again in some states. And so we're limited really in what we can do. We're just trying to, let the students know that we're here to support them, and that we're trying to demonstrate that we're doing things well on campus. And that gives, I think, the politicians more confidence going forward that we can return students to campus and manage it well. And we did a good job in the spring, and I don't just mean FDU, all the colleges in New Jersey did a very good job of keeping, we all had some students on campus, so including international students. We did a good job of keeping the infection rate down. The students did, first and foremost. So I think if we can do that again, we can build confidence in the key decision makers, the governors, especially in our states, and even people at the federal level, to maybe allow more international travel going forward. But until that happens, it's going to be very difficult for us to do more than what we're doing, which is, again, at least to demonstrate that the campuses are safe, and to allow the students to come back to the campuses, because those will be their homes. So that's what I'm putting a lot of time into doing at the state level, is to really convincing the governors that our campuses are in effect like homes, and that the students can be, considered part of a family unit, even if they're international. That's really where they're coming. And maybe we can have some success in allowing some students, especially from countries where the infection rates are lower now, to return to the US, that they don't need to be concerned about those students.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. You and Angelo both. Angelo answers a lot of questions that we have regarding stories, so we always do appreciate your contact and always replying so quickly to everything.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You guys are doing great, and we're just trying to support you the best we can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to second that. You guys are doing a great job, and we're very proud of you, the job you're doing. So I can't tell you how much I admire you. You've been from the start in March, despite the conditions. You're running stories and you're on top of things. I don't know where the students are at Florham. I'm surprised, Angelo, that they're not doing more out there. But are they paying attention to what the Equinox is doing?
They're doing what they can.
Yeah. Well, you two in particular, kudos to both of you. You've done a magnificent job, right, Angelo?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We admire your work very much.
Thank you. We do have to give some credit to our advisor from Mill Croc Mall. He definitely helps us push everything forward. So he is a huge help, and we have a really great staff at Metro, even though we are the smaller communications department. We have so many people who are from other majors that have joined the newspaper, which makes me really happy. So
Yes.
Good. Great job. We got to make sure we nominate you for some upcoming awards that will be announced soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good one. Thank you guys for watching. Yes, we were both very geeked right now about that, what they said about us. We're trying our best every day to keep you guys informed. So please like, comment, share, subscribe on our YouTube channel, and also follow us on Instagram. We post all the time on there. Have a good
as well as Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Yes, we're trying to get those platforms up there, but yes, keep in contact with us. Have a great day. Stay safe and wear your mask.